At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important topic. So, I'll be speaking on navigating HB electrophoresis to prevent hemoglobinopathies. Now, this topic is important because of this reason. So, every year, around 300,000 children are born with sickle cell disease, and approximately 60,000 children are born with beta thalassemia major worldwide. And India contributes a huge burden of these most common monogenic disorders. So it is very imperative for all of us, and especially at this forum, to understand, to diagnose these hemoglobinopathies and to guide them accordingly so that we prevent these disorders which has a huge morbidity, mortality and economic impact on the society. So as a first step, diagnosing these hemoglobin defects is very important, and I think the point of contact in a ANC patient will be you all, and hence you all play a very important role. So let's understand that no single technique is enough alone. Complete blood count, reticulocytes, red cell indices, RDW, peripheral blood, these are the best screening tests to suspect a hemoglobinopathy. And then the definitive diagnosis comes from HB electrophoresis and HPLC, which are the two most common methods of separating hemoglobins. The DNA tests like PCR, MLPA, restriction fragment length polymorphism, and the latest addition, that is next generation sequencing. These are used as definitive tests which identify the particular mutation. Nevertheless, parental screening is very important and almost mandatory in all the cases, and a meticulous clinical history is very important. For example, so this is a child. This shows you the HPLC graph, and it shows hemoglobin F is 97.3, hemoglobin A2 is 2.1, and hemoglobin A is almost absent. So there is no hemoglobin A. So if this is a 1-day-old baby, this is absolutely normal, right? And suppose if this is an 8-month-old male having anemia requiring blood transfusion since the age of 5 months, so the diagnosis is thalassemia major. Whereas if it's a 4-year-old male requiring blood transfusion after the age of 3 years, this becomes a thalassemia intermediate. So clinical history is very important, and all these tests have to be interpreted in the clinical context. And if it's a 18-year-old male and he is asymptomatic, this becomes a hereditary persistent fetal hemoglobin. Now this is a very important slide, and I want all of you to pay attention. So this is the most common clinical scenario in your clinical practice, and this is how you suspect a hemoglobinopathy, although you should remember that every ANC patient should get a HPLC test done. How do you differentiate between iron deficiency anemia and a third trait? So MCV will be low in both, but the RBC count will be either normal or on the higher side of normal in a thalassemia trait. The MCV will be less than 70, and the RDW is usually in the normal range. And in contrast, the iron deficiency anemia will have a low RBC count. The RBC count will be low, MCV usually more than 60, and the RDW will be high, it will be more than 70. Another important slide, the various percentages of hemoglobin variants in thalassemia trait and thalassemia major. So in thalassemia trait, we all know the HbA2 rises. Important is the HbA2, it is more than 4%. Whereas in thalassemia major, the HbA is between 0 to 30%, and HbF is the majority of the hemoglobin, that is 80 to 95%. In other hemoglobinopathies, in trait, hemoglobin S, C or D trait, the hemoglobin A is more than 50%. The normal hemoglobin, that is hemoglobin A, will be more than 50%, and the variant hemoglobin will be 35 to 40%. Whereas in a sickle cell S, D and hemoglobin C homozygous, the variant hemoglobin will be the majority of the hemoglobin, that will be 85 to 90%. Now again, this shows you the various percentages of hemoglobins in sickle cell disease and sickle beta thalassemia. And how do you differentiate between sickle cell disease and sickle beta thalassemia is the HbA2 and HbF. So HbA2 and H will be less than 3.5% in sickle cell disease and HbF will be less than 10%. Whereas in contrast to sickle beta thalassemia, HbA2 will be high and HbF will be relatively high. Now, how to diagnose? So, after a strong suspicion, these are the two common methods by which we separate and identify hemoglobins are cellulose acetate electrophoresis and HPLC, that is high performance or high pressure liquid chromatography. So let's talk about cellulose acetate electrophoresis. It is the most commonly used electrophoresis method. It is done at an alkaline pH of 8.2 to 8.6 and it can detect most clinically important hemoglobins. However, it has some limitations and these are, it is an labor intensive, it does not quantify the hemoglobins and it has to be complemented with another technique to actually identify and supplement and quantify the hemoglobins. So this is the electrophoretic pattern on a cellulose acetate electrophoresis, and you see I want you to highlight here that the A2 C hemoglobin E and hemoglobin O, they have the same mobility, so they come in the same band. That is why you cannot differentiate them on a HB electrophoresis. Similarly, hemoglobin S, hemoglobin D, G and L, they have the same mobility, appear as same band, and hence you cannot differentiate. So these two you should remember because you cannot differentiate them in HB electrophoresis and you need a HPLC. There is an old mnemonic to remember this, that on HB electrophoresis, Sheila Das gave it a very old mnemonic because these bands appear, they have the same mobility pattern, and CEO plus A2, they have the same mobility pattern. Now let's come to cation exchange high performance liquid chromatography. This is the most advanced technique and it has almost replaced HB electrophoresis in today's practice. This is the Biorad variant hemoglobin testing system, and this has various programs. We usually use the beta thalassemia short program or the sickle cell thalassemia short program. So how is it, what is the principle and how is it based? So this technique separates hemoglobins and it variants according to the different charge that the hemoglobin variants have. There is a stationary phase which is called as the chromatographic column and a mobile phase which contains cations and buffer. So in short, you can see the column. So this is the column. The column that is shown, that's a stationary phase that will have an adsorbent material. Usually it is the silica. And when the mobile phase, that is the cations containing a mixture of compounds or a mixture of hemoglobins, pass through this column, it gets absorbed. So once it gets absorbed, there is an increasing concentration of cations which flow through this column, and the hemoglobins actually elute from this adsorbed surface according to their affinity on the chromatographic column, and then they are detected according to the time they are detected by the optical method. So this is the key principle. For each normal or variant hemoglobin being analyzed, there is a particular time which is known as the retention time before the hemoglobin appears in the elute. So this time is important, the retention time, or in short the RT. So it is measured from the time of sample injection to the maximum point of each peak. And then there is a retention window, that is the time in which that particular hemoglobin is likely to appear in the elute. These are the examples. So the retention window is from 1 minute to approximately 5 minutes, and these are the various retention windows where the hemoglobins are separated into hemoglobin F, A2, D, S and C. Now this is the composition of normal adult hemoglobin. As we all know, HbA is 8 alpha 2 beta 2, which is more than 96% in an adult. HbA2 is alpha 2 delta 2, which is approximately 2.5%, and hemoglobin F is less than 1% in a normal adult. Now this shows the various retention time and retention windows in HPLC. So you have to remember this, that it starts with on the x-axis it starts with a peak at hemoglobin F, which is followed by P2, P3, A, A2, B, D, S and C, right? So F is the fetal hemoglobin. Here if the fetal hemoglobin is raised, you can see a spike. P2 usually gives the glycosylated hemoglobin A. P3 is for hemoglobin J Biret or hemoglobin J Baltimore. A is the adult hemoglobin, A2 is the alpha 2 delta 2, and only pitfall of HPLC is that in this A2 region it will also show HBD Iran and HBE. This is very important. So HBE and HBD Iran and HB Lipor, they co-elute with HbA2 and hence they cannot be differentiated on HPLC. You need some other techniques. Hemoglobin D, S and C. Now let's talk about interpretation. So hemoglobin F, it's the major hemoglobin of fetus and newborn. Up to 5% is common till the age of 12 to 24 months, and in adults, as I have said, it is less than 1%. It increases slightly in the 4th month of pregnancy because of the fetus. However, it is less than 5%. 5 to 10% is a grey zone, but if you come across a pregnant female crossing 4th month of pregnancy and the HbF is more than 10%, it is something abnormal. Now it is increased in beta thalassemia minor and major, we all know. In hereditary persistence of fetal hemoglobin, it will be 100% in an homozygous HPFH and 10 to 25% in heterozygous form. It increases to some extent in various non-hemoglobinopathies, that is aplastic anemia and JMML. Now the P2 band, the P2 peak, it, as I've said, it shows the glycated forms of hemoglobin, that is HbA1c. It is seen in diabetics, we all know. The P3 region or the retention window, approximately 6% is acceptable because of some inaccuracy, but more than 15 to 25%, this is seen in various other hemoglobinopathies, that is HbJ Biret and HbJ Miret especially. A0 is the non-glycated fraction of adult hemoglobin. Now about the how to interpret HbA2 data. So A2 will be normal in newborn and it will be normal in alpha thal. It will be reduced in alpha thal and newborn. It will be normal, that is 1.8 to 3.5% in normal individuals. 3.5 to 4 is the intermediate indeterminate zone, whereas more than 4 is usually seen in beta thalassemia trait, 4 to 9%. As I have told you that A2 elutes with CEO and Lipor. It elutes with Lipor, HBD Iran and HBE trait. So in Lipor it will be 10 to 19%. In HBE trait it will be 20 to 35%. So if you see a band at HbA2 it quantifies as 20 to 35%, it is actually E trait. And in HBE homozygous the A2 will be 70 to 95%. These are the various causes of increased and decreased HbA2 levels. This actually is very, very important while interpreting the HbA2 levels. It is increased in beta thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, megaloblastic anemia. So simple non-hemoglobinopathy, that is megaloblastic anemia, has actually falsely raised the HbA2 and this has to be remembered. Causes of decreased HbA2, you have to remember iron deficiency is a very common cause of decreased HbA2. So you have to correct the iron and repeat the HPLC again. Similarly, G6PD deficiency, HBD Punjab, delta beta thalassemia and delta thalassemia will lead to a decreased HbA2 levels. In the D window, HBD Punjab, so trait will show 20 to 40% of heterozygous if it is heterozygous and 70 to 90% if it's a HBD homozygous condition. Similarly, sickle S window will show 20 to 40% if it's a heterozygous condition and 70 to 90% if it's a homozygous condition. There could be unknown peaks anywhere. This can appear at anywhere in the table, and more than one unknown peak may be seen. Up to 8% is usually not significant, but above 8% usually we have to correlate it with the retention time used as reference for hemoglobin identification. Interpretation of alpha gene variants, we have discussed HBJ mirrored appears in the P3 window 15 to 25%. HBQ India, this appears at an unknown peak at a retention time of 4.8 minutes. Now this is the normal chromatogram. You can see F, P2, P3, A0 and A2 in their normal ranges. I'll discuss two short cases. A 23-year-old female resident of Punjab. She presented at 12 weeks of gestation for a routine antenatal screening. She did not have any history of blood transfusion or jaundice. She had a very mild pallor and no icterus, no hepatosplenomegaly. Her hemoglobin was 8.1, MCV was low, 69, MCH 20, MCHC 27, and on the PS you can see a microcytic hypochromic picture, and this is the HPLC. Any guess? So the HPLC shows hemoglobin F is 2.1, which would be normal, P2 is 7.9, A0 is the majority of the hemoglobin, that is 87.5, and A2 is 2.3. Think thyroid trait. Actually, the thyroid trait A2 should be more than 4, or at least more than 3.8. Here A2 is 2.3. And she had microcytic hypochromic anemia. This is a normal patient. This is iron deficiency anemia with iron deficiency anemia in pregnancy. Now case 2 is a 25-year-old patient resident of Uttar Pradesh, G2P1 at 31 weeks of gestation. Her first child is a 3-year-old healthy asymptomatic male, and she came for a routine antenatal screening. She had no history of blood transfusion or jaundice. On examination again she had mild pallor. And you see that hemoglobin is 7.2, hematocrit 24.8, MCV is 72, MCH 21, MCHC is 30, and RDW is 16, microcytic hypochromic RBCs. And this is the HPLC graph. Now here you can see there is a slight elevation in HbA2 and RDW is 16. That is, you see here, if I go back, the RBC count is normal here. The RBC count has not decreased. Is 4.43, and the RDW is also normal. There is a microcytic hypochromic anemia and HbA2 is present. So this is a case of heterozygous beta thalassemia or beta thalassemia trait. Right, thank you so much for patient hearing, and the take home message for today's talk is no single technique alone is enough for diagnosis of hemoglobinopathy, so it has to be complemented with the routine CBC, PS, reticulocyte count and other tests. Clinical history, ethnicity of the patient and place of origin of the patient are very important. CBC, red cell indices, RDW, reticulocytes and PS are essential for diagnosis. You should remember that in HPLC technique, the HbA2 co-elutes with the HbE before and D co-elute with HbA2, and hence you should be alert. In case of doubts, parental screening is very, very important. In fact, I practice that parental screening is mandatory for all the patients, and HPLC is a very highly sensitive, specific and quick method of separating